Sarah had always loved mornings in her quiet suburban home. The sun crept slowly through the blinds, casting long golden lines across the kitchen floor. Today, however, the sunlight didn't feel quite as warm. There was a subtle tension in the air she couldn't ignore, a feeling that something was about to happen. She moved around the kitchen, preparing breakfast. The rhythmic chopping of vegetables and the soft hiss of the coffee maker doing little to soothe the unease she felt. Living with Mark, her husband, and his teenage son, Ethan, had its challenges. But she had learned to navigate the delicate balance of patience, empathy, and understanding. Ethan was polite, reserved, and in many ways still finding his place in the world after losing his mother years ago. Sarah had grown close to him, not as a parent, but as someone he could trust, as she placed a plate of pancakes on the counter. She noticed Ethan standing at the doorway, hesitant, his hands tucked in his pockets. He didn't meet her eyes, a clear sign that something was troubling him. "Good morning, Ethan," she said gently, offering a small smile. "How did you sleep?" He muttered a quiet greeting, shifting uncomfortably on his feet. There was something heavy in his expression, a combination of fear, hesitation, and longing. Sarah put down the spatula she had been using and turned her full attention to him. "Ethan, if something's on your mind, you can tell me. I promise you won't get in trouble. I just want to help." He sighed, a long exhale that seemed to carry more than just air. I don't know how to say it," he admitted, finally raising his eyes to meet hers. "I feel like I never get a chance to talk to you alone, and I need someone to understand me." Sarah's heart softened. She remembered all the times she had seen him sitting quietly in his room, headphones on, lost in thought. Or struggling with homework that seemed trivial to adults, but monumental to him. "You can always talk to me, Ethan," she said. "Really, anything you want." He nodded, biting his lip, as if deciding whether he could trust her fully. "It's just, sometimes I feel like I'm all alone. I know Dad's busy, and I don't want to bother him with my problems. But I feel like I need someone to just listen." Sarah moved closer and placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "You're never a bother, Ethan. You're important, and your feelings matter. I'm here, and I'll listen." A flicker of relief crossed his face. He relaxed slightly, leaning against the counter. "Thanks. It just feels different talking to you than anyone else." You really hear me?" She smiled softly. "That's because I do. I want to understand you, not just give advice. Sometimes just knowing someone cares can make all the difference." For the next several minutes, they spoke quietly, sharing thoughts about school, friends, and the small worries that filled the teenager's life. Sarah listened intently, offering gentle guidance when he sought it, but mostly letting him express himself freely. She noticed the tension in his shoulders slowly ease, replaced by a quiet vulnerability that seemed to deepen their connection. It wasn't just casual conversation, it was a moment of trust being built, a bridge forming between them in a world that often felt cold and unwelcoming. Ethan's gaze shifted to the floor again, then back to Sarah, hesitating. "Can I ask you something? Personal," he said quietly. "Of course," she replied, keeping her voice soft and welcoming. He took a deep breath. I just want to know that someone believes in me. That even when I mess up or feel lost, there's someone who still thinks I can do the right thing." Sarah felt her heart swell with empathy. "I believe in you, Ethan, and so does your father. We know you're trying your best, and that's what matters. Everyone has moments of doubt, but having someone who trusts you can help you get through them." Ethan nodded, a small, almost shy smile appearing. "I guess. I just never felt like anyone really got it before. But you do. I can tell." Sarah's chest warmed at the sincerity in his voice. This wasn't about favoritism or attachment, it was about a child feeling seen, heard, and understood. And in that kitchen, surrounded by the familiar smells of breakfast, she realized how powerful that connection could be. He hesitated again, as if weighing his next words carefully. Can you just stay with me for a bit? I have a project I need to finish, and I think I can do it if you're here." Sarah felt a pang of emotion. She could see how much he needed her presence, not for guidance alone, but for reassurance and support. "I'll stay, Ethan," she said, smiling. "Let's work on it together." As they set up his project on the kitchen counter, laughter slowly replaced the earlier tension. Sarah watched him, noticing how focused he became when he felt supported, how his nervous energy transformed into determination. It was in these small, everyday moments, chopping vegetables together, stirring sauces, sharing quiet conversation, that trust was built, connection was deepened, and hearts were touched by the time the morning light grew stronger and the sun climbed higher. The kitchen had become more than just a place for food, was a safe space for dialogue, understanding, and emotional growth. Sarah realized that her role in Ethan's life was significant, not as a replacement for his mother, but as someone who offered consistency, patience, and unwavering support. Ethan looked up at her, a tentative smile on his face. "Thanks, Sarah, for staying. I really mean it." "You don't have to thank me," she said softly. "I'm glad to be here for you." And in that moment, Sarah understood the delicate balance she maintained every day: nurturing, listening, and being present without overstepping, offering love and guidance while respecting boundaries. The trust they had begun to build today was just the start, a foundation that would help both of them navigate the challenges of family life, adolescence, and connection. As Ethan finally dove into his project with renewed focus, Sarah leaned against the counter, reflecting on the morning's quiet revelations. It was a small start, a fleeting moment in time, but one that carried the promise of deeper understanding, emotional growth, and a bond rooted in care, patience, and genuine concern. The morning had begun with tension, uncertainty, and silent questions, but it ended with laughter, understanding, and the quiet reassurance that trust, when nurtured, could transform a relationship in the most unexpected yet profoundly meaningful ways. The days that followed felt different to Sarah, though nothing overtly had changed. There was a subtle shift in the atmosphere at home, a quiet awareness that something unspoken had begun to form between her and Ethan. It wasn't inappropriate or alarming. Rather, it was a bond of trust and understanding that made their shared moments more meaningful. That Saturday morning, sunlight streamed through the living room windows, casting a warm glow over the furniture. Sarah was tidying up the living room while Ethan sat cross-legged on the rug, headphones resting around his neck as he focused intently on his laptop. "Sarah," he called softly, not wanting to startle her. She looked up and smiled. "Yes, Ethan. I was wondering if you could help me with something," he said, his voice hesitant. There was a quiet vulnerability in the way he spoke. It's the sort of vulnerability that only appeared when he truly trusted someone. "Of course," she replied, setting down the blanket she had been folding. "What do you need help with?" He shuffled slightly, clearly nervous, before explaining. "It's my science project. I want it to be good. I know I can figure it out, but it would mean a lot if you helped me get started." Sarah felt a warm surge of care for him. He wasn't asking for handholding in a superficial way. He wanted guidance, a sounding board, someone who would encourage him when he doubted himself. She nodded. "Let's do it together. I'm sure we can make something amazing." As they set up the materials, paper markers, and a small collection of household items to demonstrate simple physics experiments, Sarah noticed how Ethan's energy shifted. He was usually reserved, quiet, often lost in thought. But now, with her presence, he radiated focus, determination, and a quiet joy. It reminded her of the importance of being seen and acknowledged, especially for teenagers who often felt invisible. Hours passed as they worked side by side. Sarah guided Ethan through planning his project, asking questions and encouraging him to think critically. "What do you want people to learn from this?" she asked, prompting him to reflect. Ethan considered her words carefully. "I want them to see that small changes can make a big difference, that even tiny actions have consequences," he said, finally meeting her gaze. There was a maturity in his voice, a thoughtfulness that Sarah found deeply admirable. "You're right," she said softly. "That's an important lesson. And the way you're putting it together shows how much you care about what people understand." As the afternoon sun shifted, Shadows stretching across the room, Sarah felt a moment of quiet connection between them. She wasn't just helping with a project. She was participating in something bigger, guiding a young person toward confidence, helping him believe in his own capabilities, and, in turn, being reminded of the power of empathy and patience. When they took a break, Ethan stretched and leaned back against the couch. "Thanks, Sarah," he said quietly. "I mean, for really being here. It's different with you. I feel like I can actually think clearly." Sarah smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I'm glad, Ethan. That's why I'm here. Everyone needs someone who believes in them, especially when they're unsure of themselves." There was a pause, a quiet moment filled with mutual understanding. Ethan's expression softened, and Sarah realized that these were the small but important instances that shaped relationships, that created bonds that would last well into adulthood. Later that evening, after dinner, Sarah found Ethan sitting on the porch steps, staring at the sky as if contemplating something much larger than himself. She joined him, sitting beside him quietly, letting him choose whether to speak. Finally, he spoke. "Sarah, do you think people ever feel stuck? Like, no matter what they do, things just don't go the way they hope?" She nodded thoughtfully. "Yes, sometimes life feels like that. But it's important to remember that stuck doesn't mean hopeless. Every step you take, even small ones, moves you forward. And you don't have to go through it alone." Ethan looked at her, a hint of a smile on his lips. "You always know what to say," he said softly. "It's not that I always know," she admitted. "I just listen, and I try to understand. Sometimes that's enough to see a way forward." The rest of the evening passed with quiet conversation, shared laughter over small stories, and the simple comfort of presence. Sarah realized how meaningful these moments were, not because they were extraordinary, but because they were real. Real connection, real care, real trust. The following week brought new challenges. Ethan faced tests at school, social pressures from friends, and his own internal doubts. Sarah found herself stepping into the role of supportive guide more often, always careful to maintain boundaries while offering encouragement. One evening, as he struggled with a particularly difficult math problem, Ethan looked up at her with frustration. "I can't do this," he admitted, throwing his pencil onto the desk. "You can," Sarah said firmly, but gently. "You just need to take it one step at a time. Let's break it down together." They worked through the problem methodically, Sarah asking questions, prompting him to think critically, and praising him for each step he completed successfully. When he finally solved it, his face lit up with pride. "I did it," he exclaimed, the tension and frustration of the moment replaced by satisfaction. "I knew you could," she said, smiling warmly. "See, you just needed a little patience and support." Ethan laughed, a sound that was light and relieved. "Yeah, I guess I needed you more than I realized." Sarah felt a quiet joy in that moment. It wasn't just about helping him with schoolwork. It was about being a steady presence in his life, a source of reassurance. Think someone who validated his feelings. As the days turned into weeks, their bond continued to grow. Ethan confided more openly, asking for advice on friendships, school projects, and even personal reflections. Sarah listened, offered guidance when appropriate, and always respected his space, knowing that trust was fragile and needed careful nurturing. One afternoon, while rearranging the living room, Ethan approached her with a hesitant look. "Sarah, can we talk about something kind of serious?" "Of course," she replied, putting down the cushion she had been adjusting. He took a deep breath. "I feel like I'm really lucky to have you here. You make things easier. I don't know what I'd do without someone who gets me." Her chest warmed at his words. "I'm glad you feel that way, Ethan, and I'm glad I can be here for you." There was a pause, a quiet moment where the air seemed to hum with understanding. Sarah realized how much he relied on her presence, not in a dependent way, but as a source of stability and encouragement. It was a bond built on trust, respect, and care, a bond that would help him navigate adolescence with confidence and emotional intelligence. As evening fell, They continued their activities together, quietly enjoying each other's company. Sarah reflected on the subtle shifts in their relationship, the trust, the shared moments, the laughter, and even the small struggles. Each of these elements contributed to a stronger, more meaningful connection. By the time night settled in, Ethan had gone to his room, leaving Sarah alone with her thoughts. She understood that these experiences were shaping him just as much as they were shaping her. Being a supportive figure didn't always require grand gestures. Often, it was the quiet, consistent presence that mattered most. As she looked out the window at the stars beginning to emerge, Sarah felt a profound sense of fulfillment. She was making a difference in someone's life, guiding him through challenges, helping him see his own worth, and creating a safe space where trust and understanding could flourish. These moments were precious, and she cherished each one. And yet, there was an unspoken anticipation in the air, a sense that the bond they were forming would soon face new challenges, situations that would test their patience, empathy, and understanding. But Sarah felt ready. She knew that, with care, communication, and respect, they could navigate whatever came next, strengthening the connection that had begun in those quiet, ordinary moments. The next morning, Sarah awoke to the soft hum of sunlight filtering through the blinds. The house was quiet, a rare moment of stillness before the usual flurry of activities began. She stretched and went about her routine, tidying the kitchen and preparing breakfast. There was a sense of anticipation in the air, though she couldn't quite place why. Perhaps it was the feeling that the days ahead would bring something important, something that would test the connection she had been carefully nurturing with Ethan. Ethan appeared soon after, his backpack slung over one shoulder. He gave her a small smile that carried a mix of excitement and hesitation. "Morning, Sarah," he said. His voice had the same calm confidence it often did when he felt supported. Yet there was an unspoken question behind it. "I need to share something more than words could immediately convey." "Morning, Ethan," she replied warmly. "Did you sleep well?" He nodded, his eyes flicking toward the kitchen counter. "Yeah, I had a dream. About the science project." He paused, as if weighing how much to say. "It made me think about everything we've been working on, and I wanted to ask you something." Sarah sensed that this was a pivotal moment. She set down the plate of toast she had been preparing and gave him her full attention. "Of course, you can ask me anything." Ethan took a deep breath. "I was wondering, could you help me take the project a step further? I mean, really push it? I think I can make it more than just a simple demonstration. I want it to stand out." Sarah's heart warmed at his determination. She admired his drive, his willingness to go beyond comfort and strive for excellence. "Absolutely," she said. "Let's make it something extraordinary together. We'll figure it out step by step." They spent the morning gathering additional materials, brainstorming ideas, and sketching out possibilities. Sarah noticed how Ethan's eyes lit up with inspiration whenever he found a new approach or concept. She guided him gently, asking questions that encouraged him to think critically, and praising him for the insights he discovered on his own. There was a rhythm to their collaboration, a harmony that made the hours pass swiftly without feeling rushed. By midday, they had made significant progress. The project had transformed from a simple experiment into a detailed presentation with practical demonstrations, creative visuals, and a compelling narrative. Ethan's excitement was palpable, and Sarah couldn't help but share in it. "You've done amazing work, Ethan," she said. "I'm proud of you. This will impress everyone, and most importantly, you've learned so much along the way." Ethan's face glowed with pride. But there was a vulnerability there as well, a quiet awareness that recognition alone wasn't the goal. He wanted to create something meaningful, something that reflected his own efforts and thoughtfulness. Sarah admired this about him. It was a rare blend of ambition and humility that spoke volumes about his character. Later that afternoon, he took a break on the porch, sipping lemonade and enjoying the soft breeze. The sky was a perfect blue, dotted with clouds that drifted lazily across the horizon. Sarah felt a moment of pure contentment. watching Ethan's expression as he discussed his ideas and plans for the upcoming school exhibition. She realized how much these moments mattered, not just the project itself, but the time spent connecting, sharing knowledge, and building trust. "Sarah," Ethan said after a pause, his voice quieter now, "I'm glad you're here. I don't just mean for the project. I mean everything. I feel like I can actually talk to you about things, you know?" She smiled, touched by his sincerity. "I'm glad, Ethan. That's why I'm here. Everyone needs someone who listens and supports them. You've got so much potential, and it's a joy to see you grow." As the evening approached, the atmosphere shifted. There was a soft tension, not uncomfortable, but full of anticipation. Ethan had been working on a particularly tricky part of his project, trying to find a solution that was both creative and effective. He had hit a wall and looked frustrated. "Sarah, I can't figure this out," he admitted, leaning back and rubbing his forehead. "You can," she said firmly, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Let's tackle it together. We'll break it down into smaller steps and find the solution. You've already come so far. A little more effort will get you there." They've worked side by side, problem-solving patiently and methodically. Sarah encouraged him to think differently, offered subtle hints instead of direct answers, and celebrated each small breakthrough. Gradually, Ethan's confidence returned, his determination shining through. When he finally completed the task, his eyes sparkled with accomplishment. "We did it," he said, a mix of relief and pride in his tone. "Yes, we did," Sarah replied, her smile warm. "And you should be proud of yourself. You never gave up, and that's what matters most." That night after dinner, Sarah reflected on the day. She understood that these experiences were shaping Ethan, helping him develop resilience, creativity, and emotional intelligence. It wasn't about being a hero or taking over. It was about guiding him, providing support, and nurturing his growth. The following days brought the school exhibition, and Ethan's project was a highlight. Visitors admired the creativity and thoughtfulness behind it, and Ethan received praise from both peers and teachers. Yet the most meaningful moments for Sarah were the quiet ones, the moments when Ethan looked at her with gratitude, when he shared his reflections about what he had learned, and when she saw his confidence flourish. One afternoon, after the exhibition, Ethan approached her with a reflective expression. "Sarah, I've realized something. It's not just about the project or the recognition. It's about feeling capable, feeling supported, and knowing that someone believes in you." "You've got it exactly right," she said, touched by his insight. "Believing in yourself and having someone who believes in you can make all the difference." Over the next few weeks, their bond deepened naturally. Sarah continued to be a steady presence in Ethan's life, guiding him through challenges, celebrating successes, and providing a safe space for reflection. She noticed his growth not just academically, but emotionally. He was learning patience, empathy, and the value of collaboration. One quiet evening, as they sat in the living room, Ethan shared a personal thought. "Sarah, I think I understand now why you've been so patient and supportive. It's not just about helping me. It's about being present, listening, and really caring. And that's something I want to carry forward in my life." Sarah's heart swelled with pride. She realized that the true success of their journey wasn't measured by awards or accolades, but by the lessons learned, the trust built, and the emotional maturity developed. As months passed, the household felt more harmonious, grounded in respect, trust, and understanding. Sarah saw the transformation in Ethan, a young man becoming confident, thoughtful, and capable. She also recognized her own growth, learning the nuances of mentorship, patience, and the quiet power of emotional support. On a peaceful Saturday morning, Sarah found herself looking at Ethan as he worked on a new personal project, completely absorbed in thought. She smiled, recalling the journey they had shared, from tentative conversations and hesitant questions to moments of clarity, laughter, and mutual understanding. She realized that these experiences had strengthened not only him, but also her ability to connect, guide, and nurture. The story of their connection was one of subtle triumphs, quiet victories, and deep emotional resonance. It wasn't about grand gestures or dramatic events. It was about the consistency of care, the patience of guidance, and the power of being present. In these everyday moments, trust had been built, confidence had grown, and a meaningful bond had been formed, one that would influence both their lives in lasting ways. And as Sarah watched Ethan, sense of fulfillment washed over her. She understood that the most profound impact often comes not from extraordinary acts, but from ordinary moments lived with care, attention, and love. In these small, significant ways, she had helped shape a life, and in doing so, she had discovered the depth and beauty of connection, empathy, and shared growth.